You have training on the use of this camera, correct?
Yes.
And I assume they installed that camera in your vehicle for some reason. Is that true?
I believe that would be true.
Did they tell you why they installed the camera in your car, Trooper?
No, they did not.
All right. Well, what training?
I don't know who they is.
Michigan State Police. Did they tell you why they installed the camera in your car?
They did not tell me specifically that, no.
All right. Now, the training, what training do you have in the use of this camera?
It was a one-day training class at the academy in Lansing.
Did they give you any written materials with this training?
I don't believe they did, no.
And they, of course, never gave you a copy of Official Order Number 49.
They did not.
Did they tell you when and how? Did they tell you when you're supposed to use your camera?
They told us how to use the camera and what components one needed to operate the camera.
When was this educational program, if you recall?
It was several years ago, Your Honor, in Lansing.
Now,
Could it have been before December 26, 2000?
I believe it was, Your Honor.
but as of December 26, you're bound by this official order, correct? Of the year
Objection.
2000.
I think it's been asked and answered at least 3 times.
Now, Trooper, as far as the fact that you didn't have a microphone and key, are you saying that those items aren't available at the post?
I don't know if they are or not. I notified the person in charge that I did not have those components as promised at the training division. Therefore, the camera was not to be used without those components. Whether or not they're at the post or not, I have no idea.
And nobody ever responded to your request, is that correct?
They told me they would get back to me.
Trooper, now that, do you dislike the in-car camera?
I have not had an opportunity to use the in-car camera. I think it's an excellent tool.
So it's not something you chosen not to use, it's something that wasn't available to you, is that correct?
That would be true.
Now, the vehicle you currently drive no longer has a camera, is that correct?
That would be true.
Now, as far as your probable cause to arrest Andrew Schwartz, was that after he had failed the last field sobriety test, when you believed that you had probable cause to arrest him?
Yes.
And what was the last field sobriety test you gave him?
The walk and turn test.
Thank you. So prior to that, you still had an open mind, is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, when you asked him to walk from his car into the police station, he had no difficulty walking when he was walking in a normal fashion. Did he, Trooper?
I don't believe so.
Now, I want to talk to you about your conducting of the breath test on the defendant that date. You know that you have to do a 15-minute observation period. Is that correct?
Yes.
And do you know, to observe somebody, would you agree that you have to be looking at them?
Yes.
And the reason why you're observing that person is to see if they belch, burp, or regurgitate. Is that correct?
Yes, that is.
And you know that if you don't do the 15-minute observation period, that in fact that test will be inadmissible in court.
Yes.
And you know that if you don't do the 15-minute observation period, then it's possible the test may be invalid or questionable.
Asked and answered. That was worded differently, but the exact same question is, it's inadmissible, Judge.
All right, let me ask you differently. If you don't do a 15-minute observation period, Trooper, from your training, they trained you that could compromise the integrity of the test.
Yes.
And what time did you start your observation of Andrew Schwartz that night?
I don't recall.
I think you asked these questions when last we met.
No, he didn't. May I approach the witness list? I give him a copy of his. If I showed you a copy of your breath test slip, would that help refresh your recollection?
It would, sir.
Now, what time did you begin your observation period, Trooper?
00:45 hours.
And where did you get that time from?
From the display portion of the data master.
And you know that from your training, you know you must get the time from that display portion of the data master, correct?
Yes.
And if you wouldn't have taken that time from there and written it down, do you think you would remember today what time you started your observation period?
Not the true time, no.
And you know that this observation period must be continuous for at least 15 minutes before giving the breath test.
Yes.
And it must be uninterrupted.
Judge, that actually calls for a legal conclusion now.
According to your training, that observation must be uninterrupted. Is that correct, Trooper?
I'm going to object again because he's now calling for a legal answer. The law speaks on the continuous 15-minute waiting period as described, and he's asking the trooper now to describe it and define it better than the Court of Appeals, and I don't think that's proper.
I'm asking him according to his training, Your Honor.
The word uninterrupted is a word that I'm having trouble with in that question. You mean uninterrupted in a continuous way, or staring at somebody for 15 minutes?
That's what initiated my objection, that phrase.
Well, yes, Your Honor. I guess continuous and uninterrupted observation of the person. That's what...
Okay, so you're going to ask the question. I mean, I have had a little trouble with that word. What do you mean by uninterrupted? I mean, if somebody speaks to him, he can't be observing somebody? I mean, I don't...
Well, I guess...
I know you want to be very helpful to the fact finder here, so...
Well, continuous and uninterrupted...
So ask specific questions so
Okay.
I understand what you're doing.
Uninterrupted, Trooper, means that the person must remain within your view, correct? To observe them.
In my view.
Within your view.
Within my view, as I understand it, yes.
All right. So if there's a person or people standing in front of the person you're observing, that would interrupt your observation of them, would it not, Trooper?
I guess it would depend on where I was standing and what position and angle I had to view someone.
Well, you don't have the ability to see through people, do you?
I have been called Superman, but no, I cannot see through people. But just because someone is standing in front of someone,
Maybe, huh?
I can see, as you see, I don't wear glasses. I have excellent vision. I can see the defendant, although you may think you may be blocking him from my view, I can see him from here. Sir.
All right, let me ask you, Trooper. Are you trained to record the time that you start your 15-minute observation of the subject on the evidentiary breath ticket?
Yes.
And you're trained to do that when you begin your observation?
If possible, yes.
If possible? Does it say if possible anywhere? You are familiar with this manual, correct, Trooper?
I am.
It says Michigan Breath Test Operator Training Manual. And this was the manual you were trained with, correct?
I believe so, yes.
What page are we looking at, Counsel?
I'm looking at page 5-2. Can you read what instructions for use of evidence ticket? Number 1. What is a state trooper? Could you read it?
Use? There's two number ones.
Number 1 right there.
Okay, there were two number ones, though.
Yes.
Record the time that the 15 minutes observation of the subject began on the bottom of the form. Use the time displayed on the instrument panel only and use military time.
Judge, I hope that is going to be admitted into evidence that that was the way it was trained to him. So if it's going to be accepted in the record now, I'd ask that it be offered as an exhibit.
I would offer this as an exhibit, Your Honor, if we marked as Defendant's Exhibit E. Now, Trooper, you stated that you should record the observation start period at the beginning, if possible.
Objection, that was not his testimony. Nor does it appear to be consistent with Defense Exhibit C, since it's silent on when you actually record the ticket.
I understand that. Trooper, did you testify that, if possible, you record the observation start period at the bottom of the ticket when you start the observation period?
According to my training, yes.
All right. And what would be preventing you from doing just that in this particular case?
The amount of criminal traffic or the amount of prisoners, the amount of things that are going on within the booking area.
So that prevented you from doing it in this particular case. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And on page 8-1, which would be Chapter 8, Subject Test Sequence, what does it indicate the first thing you're supposed to do when giving a data master breath test?
Check the mouth of the subject for food, gum, tobacco, or any foreign substances. Observe the subject for at least 15 minutes. Record observation start time on evidence ticket. Use the time displayed on the instrument panel only, military time.
Nowhere in there does it say if possible, does it, Trooper?
No, it does not.
Now,
Isn't it, I won't say that, but according to my calculations, was it around 27 minutes that the defendant was in the holding cell before the first breath test?
Yes, Your Honor.
so, Trooper, when you testified at the beginning, when you testified earlier that you recorded the observation start period in accordance with your training, do you remember that? I asked you, did you record it when you began the start of your observation period on the bottom of the evidentiary breath ticket? Do you remember that question?
I do not.
If you would have testified that yes to that question and that in fact that's what you did, that would be incorrect, would it not?
I don't recall that testimony, sir.
Again, Trooper, but if you did give that testimony would be a lie. Is that correct?
Judge, I object to that question as being argumentative and assumes facts not in evidence.
Your Honor, he testified to it whether you
Counsel's testifying to what was testified to. The witness has not testified that he did testify to it or not. So counsel wants to tell him what he testified to, but there's no basis for that.
If he did.
It's a hypothetical, Judge. It's
Assisting.
improper.
Trooper, do you remember testifying to the fact that you've never seen Defendant's Exhibit A, the in-car mobile videotaping, official order number 49? Do you remember testifying that you've never seen that before?
Today, yes.
All right. But in fact, Trooper, do you remember testifying under oath at the trial of Peggy Sue Hiley Mater on Wednesday, August 28, 2002, in the Royal Oak District Court?
I remember the case, yes.
All right. And Trooper, do you remember me giving you this exact same order and asking you to identify it and tell what it was?
I don't recall or not.
All right. And, well, Your Honor, if I may,
First, I'd like
on
to know
page 72, on line 7, I ask, now can you identify what I'm handing you, Trooper? And can you read to the court what it is that you identified would be on line 8?
Have him read it to himself.
Read it.
Which line?
Line 8.
Okay, so where do we go?
Yes.
All right, so in fact, that was the same order that I handed you on that date. Is that correct, Trooper?
A copy, yes.
All right, so you, in fact, have seen Defendant's Exhibit A prior to today.
Yes.
So when you testified earlier that you hadn't seen it, that wasn't true, was it, Trooper?
Obviously, it wasn't.
Now, are there any other parts of your testimony which are untrue, which you'd like to take now take the opportunity to correct?
No.
I have nothing further, Your Honor. Trooper? Just a few follow-up questions, Trooper. This Defendant's Exhibit A about official order number 49, you haven't read it cover to cover, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
But prior to taking the stand today, you know that the prosecutor had a copy of it in his possession, correct?
Yes.
All right, in fact, and you reviewed the copy that was in his possession.
I did not.
So you just saw it and looked away?
There are a number of papers that the prosecutor has. It's none of my business to concern myself with that.
Now, where was Trooper Liggins when this breath test was being done?
In the PD somewhere.
But he wasn't assisting you in your observation, was he?
He was not.
And on your training manual, as far as for the breath test, for the operation of the evidentiary breath test, you testified that on page 5-2 that it states that you are to record the time that the 15-minute observation of the subject began on the bottom of the form. And then it says, use the time displayed on the instrument panel only and use this military time. Is that correct?
It is, sir.
And you know that the next thing you're supposed to do after you do that is to insert the evidence ticket into the opening labeled insert ticket on the data master. Is that correct?
I am not looking at the manual, so I don't know.
My approach witness, Your Honor. Can you read what it states as instructions for use of evidence ticket on number 2?
Yes.
All right, and what does it state, Trooper?
To insert the evidence ticket into the opening labeled insert ticket on the data master when the command on the display prompts insert ticket.
All right, and in fact, then after that, it says upon it states what are you supposed to do after you do that, Trooper? Number 3.
I'm going to place in picture. These questions are no longer material to the question at hand. It's known, based on counsel's astute questions, that he did not write the time period that he began observing at the time that he observed the time. So what point does it make to continue wasting this court's time talking about other parts of instructions that aren't even rules or regulations other than to waste this court's time?
And incidentally, that's not in evidence.
Pardon me, Your Honor?
The manual's not in evidence.
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
No, paragraph 1 of that page was in evidence.
All right. identified the manual and I marked it and moved to submission.
And what number did you get it?
C.
I thought we were only agreeing that it was paragraph 1.
Any of that, do you have any more so we can finish up today? With this witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Just a couple other questions. Trooper, have you testified under oath before that, in fact, the camera in that truck was broken?
Beyond the scope of my redirect.
His redirect got into... Well, again, Your Honor, I would have the right to call him on direct, so I'm asking some latitude to ask him
But
this
it is
question.
beyond the scope.
I did, in fairness, ask a question if he would know if it was operational, if he couldn't even access the videotape device to put a tape in, but I didn't go beyond anything other than that.
And,
Well, it opens up the subject, I guess.
all right. Have you testified before
Sorry to be fair, Judge.
that, in fact, the video camera installed in that vehicle was broken?
I don't recall.
So you may have, but you don't remember.
I don't recall.
So is it a correct statement to say that you may have, but you don't remember?
I am simply saying I don't recall testifying. I've testified in hundreds of cases. I don't recall the testimony I made yesterday.
Have you ever testified that the camera installed in that vehicle has never worked properly?
I don't recall, sir.
Now that would be different than you don't have a key and a microphone to use it. Would you agree with that?
Because he has done that.
I guess I don't understand that question, sir.
We testified that today that you don't know whether that video camera is operational or not because you've never had a microphone or a key.
That is correct.
All right. And so that would be different than testifying that the video camera has never worked properly.
I don't see where that would be different, no.
Well, do you know if the video camera has ever worked properly?
No, I do not. No.
Okay, so if you testified that it has never worked properly, that would be an incorrect statement.
No, I don't believe so.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
By not working properly, you mean you cannot operate it.
Yes, sir.
Nothing further.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
That's it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sit down. All right, now you have another witness, right?
Yes, Trooper Liggins, Your Honor.
I'd like an offer of proof, Judge. We might be done here today because I don't believe Trooper Liggins can offer anything to counsel.
Well, maybe not. I don't know that, Your Honor. How do I have never interviewed him.
It's not a fishing expedition. If he's calling him, it should be for a purpose, and I ask for an offer of proof to know if we can finish or not today.
Yeah, how am I supposed to know what evidence this trooper has in this case if, in fact, I've never spoken to him and he's never testified? Clearly, he was there for...
He just asked you, for what purpose are you calling him?
I would call him for the purpose to address the I guess, reason for the stop, what driving he witnessed, what he witnessed as far as field sobriety tests, whether he, in fact, was present in the booking room. There's a myriad of questions, Your Honor, and clearly, regardless of what this
I know you won't be short on questions, but I'm asking you, for what purpose are you calling him in this hearing?
for the purposes I just stated, Your Honor, because clearly if his testimony contradicts Trooper Huggins, that would clearly bring into question Trooper Huggins' credibility.
I'm hoping the court will let us finish. I know we all have better things to do. I don't think that Trooper Liggins has as much to offer as counsel thinks he does.
Well, he can get up there and tell me he doesn't know anything about the case, and that'll be quick.
That's all I wanted to know. Apparently counsel doesn't know what he's going to say. I appreciate that, so that's why I asked for an offer of proof.
Well, he just gave it to you.
No, I'd like to finish if the court will let us finish.
Well, What I think actually would be better, Your Honor, would be to,
We're all running out of time, some more than others.
well, his testimony's not going to be long. Perhaps to, adjourn this.
And can you just do it,
I don't know
in 10 minutes?
I don't know what information.
You'll know in 10 minutes whether or not
Well,
you're
we'll know in
going to
10
need
minutes,
more.
but I'm saying instead of doing that, I think that the best way to do this would be to...
The best way is to call them and ask
Okay.
them some special questions, and
Okay.
then you'll know whether you need to have them come again.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it possible Trooper Huggins
You want-
would not be in the courtroom? I mean, he can't rotate his officers in
But
charge.
he's already testified.
He's now my officer in charge.
Anyway, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to tell the court in this matter is the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Now, Trooper, you recall the incident that we are talking about here
Well,
today?
first of all, state your full name for the record, spell your last name.
David Liggins, Liggons.
Do you recall?
L-A-I?
Liggons.
Matt, proceed, Your Honor.
Yes?
Do you recall the incident we're talking about today?
Vaguely, sir.
Now, you were not the officer in charge, is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And as far as preparation for being called to testify at this hearing, did you discuss this case with Trooper Huggins?
Yes, I did.
Did you discuss it with the prosecutor?
Yes, I did.
And did you discuss it with them both simultaneously in the jury room?
Yes, I did.
And did you discuss it with them while watching the video? Did you watch the videotape that we watched in court today in the jury room?
No, sir. You are obstructing my view. I couldn't see.
No, in the
I mean,
jury
look,
room.
Just portions. I came in late. Just portions of it.
Okay, in fact, you were back there with Jody Huggins and the prosecutor,
That's correct.
and you were discussing the case.
I didn't see the whole tape, so like I said, I came in. I can't even tell you what I saw on the tape.
Okay, but anyway, ask him about the facts of the
All right.
occasion, please.
All right, you reviewed the police report,
Yes, sir.
and now, and I would assume, do you agree that the police report is factually accurate?
I didn't write the report, sir. I have to go by the officer in charge. I didn't write the report.
All right. Can you tell us what driving you witnessed that night?
Just the vehicle.
Driving of
Driving
whom?
of the defendant, Andrew Schwartz's vehicle.
I just noticed that a car passed us at a high rate of speed.
Did you notice anything else about his driving?
No, sir.
And after that, Bill, did you remember that you were the passenger, is that correct?
That's correct.
And do you remember this trooper effectuating a traffic stop on that vehicle?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, besides the fact that it was speeding up to the time that he stopped that vehicle, you don't recall how the defendant was driving, is that correct?
No, sir, I don't.
All right. And then, while he was... did you remain in the car or get out of the vehicle upon the stop?
Got out the car.
And what was your purpose for getting out of the car?
Officer safety for my partner and myself.
Okay. Did you witness him conduct the field sobriety test?
I can't say I actually witnessed the test. No, sir.
All right, so you wouldn't be able to testify on how Mr. Schwartz performed on any of them?
No, sir.
You know where Mr. Schwartz and Trooper Huggins were standing when he was conducting the test?
On the right shoulder of the freeway.
The shoulder closest to the wall.
That's correct.
And would they be standing... in what area would they be standing? Between the patrol vehicle... Were they in front of the patrol vehicle?
I can't say exactly, but they weren't behind the patrol car and they weren't next to it, but I couldn't say exactly where they were.
All right, you could see them from where you were.
When I would turn to look at them, I could see yes.
From sitting in the front seat, could you see them?
I was standing outside the car.
Okay. Did you eventually get back into the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Did you get back into the vehicle prior to Mr. Schwartz being placed under arrest?
That I couldn't tell you. I can't recall.
Do you recall hearing... do you know if Trooper Huggins read him his chemical test rights?
Yes, sir.
And where did that take place
In a
at?
patrol car.
Do you recall any observations of Mr. Schwartz's demeanor?
Crying, strong odor of intoxicants, I think a relative or something that died, and he was a relative or something of his that died, and he was expressing some grief over that.
Okay. So, other than that, do you recall anything about his demeanor?
Nothing extraordinary outside of that. Wasn't combative or anything.
Was he crying the whole time?
I can't recall what the time it was.
Were you able to understand him when Trooper Huggins was speaking with him?
I can't recall, sir.
Now, were you present in the booking room in the tape that we just saw?
To the best of my knowledge, I was not.
Are you trained in the use of in-car mobile videotaping cameras?
Actually, sir, no, but I'm in charge of the program now.
When did you become in charge of the program?
About 2 weeks ago.
And since becoming in charge of the program, did you receive any training?
No.
Are you familiar with Official Order Number 49?
I have a working knowledge of it.
All right. And when did you? So you're familiar with it.
A little bit, yes.
Are you in charge of enforcing
No, I'm not.
it? Is anybody in charge with enforcing it?
Yes.
Who?
The ultimate responsibility falls from the post commander.
And it is an official order of the state police, right?
Yes, it is.
And all state troopers are supposed to follow official orders.
Well, that's a vague question, sir. It really is. It's almost like everybody's supposed to obey every law out there. You know, it's a vague question. I can't say.
All right. Well, as a state trooper, can you ignore
Are you calling him as an expert witness or something? I mean, I'm concerned with the facts of this proceeding. You're calling him for the facts of the event.
Thank you. I shall proceed. The camera that was in the vehicle, you recall that vehicle being equipped with a camera, the night
Yes,
stop,
sir, I
Mr.
did.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Have you ever tested that camera to see if it was operational?
No, sir.
That night?
Did you test it that night?
No, sir.
Do you know whether it was operational that night?
I was informed that it was not operational.
You were informed that by Huggins.
Yes, sir.
If it was operational, were you aware that you had a duty to use it?
No, I was not.
Let me ask you this. While you were sitting in the passenger seat, you saw, before Mr. Schwartz was stopped, did you see his vehicle pass your vehicle?
I saw a vehicle go by our vehicle at a high rate of speed.
All right, but you don't know for certain if it was Mr. Schwartz's or not.
That's the vehicle we stopped. Yes, that was the vehicle he was
All right.
driving.
And what were you doing in between the time that you saw it drive by and the time that this stop was effectuated?
I can't recall, sir. It could have been in a number of things. I can't recall.
All right, but you weren't observing his vehicle, is that correct?
No, sir.
So that's a correct statement, right?
Okay, you said I wasn't observing his vehicle from the time that...
After you saw it speeding.
No, sir, there was not.
All right. So other than speeding, you can't testify to any type of erratic driving, is that correct?
No, sir, I can't.
That would be a correct statement.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I have no further questions.